Democrat and a Republican.
How do you multiply fractions?
Call the Homework Hotline.
Hey, Mom, what's the difference between Celsius and Fahrenheit?
Who's the 19th President of the United States?
What is an adverb?
Call the Homework Hotline.
How fast is the speed of light? What makes a kite fly?
How do I find a square root?
How do you spell leprechaun?
The Homework Hotline. Call 443-6592.
The archaeological...
You're watching VICA, Channel 20. Pride in what we do.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Reidland High School's edition of the Homework Hotline. I'm Russ McHouston. Manning the phones for us tonight, we have Lanita Flannery, Stuart Severin, and Damon McElrath. On the panel with me, we have John Whitty, Tony Davis, and Patrick Connor. At this time, we will show some highlights of Reidland High School.
Reidland High School is located in the southern part of McCracken County. Community cooperation and support are essential parts of our school. The elements of community support, involvement, and pride in Reidland have become very important to the students and faculty of our school. Student enrollment at Reidland High is 686 students and a faculty and staff of 48 people. Reidland School, as it was once known, was first established in 1916. The school increased in size and enrollment during the next 47 years. On February 10th of 1953, the school was destroyed by fire. Local churches offered their facilities so that the educational process could continue. With community cooperation, construction on a new school was begun approximately 1 month later. On January 3rd of 1955, the changes were completed and the new building was occupied. However, the basic building is still in use today. Curriculum offerings at Reidland High School are designed to meet the needs of all students. Course offerings include agribusiness, industrial technological education, distributive education, home economics, vocational business classes, college preparatory classes, advancement placement classes, foreign languages, music, art, in addition to honors classes in English and mathematics. A variety of classes in English, math, social studies, and sciences are available to students in grades 9 through 12. RHS students have the opportunity to participate in a wide variety of extracurricular activities. Clubs available to students are FBLA, Beta Club, freshman and senior, DECA, FFA, FHA, Science Club, Industrial Education Club, Art Club, Pep Club, and Co-Ed Y. Many sports opportunities are also available for RHS students. Each extracurricular activity is structured to instill pride in self, school, and community. Along with this idea, students exhibit a tradition of winning and excelling not only in sports but also in academics. Reidland's Future Farmers of America organization is a traditionally strong group. FFA has received national gold emblems, state gold emblems, and many winners on regional, state, and national level. Each year, FFA and FHA jointly sponsor a Christmas party for area needy children. The Future Homemakers of America participated recently in regionals at Murray State University. 2 RHS students were elected in regional offices. Mary Owen was chosen as regional song leader, and Terry Boyd was elected secretary. In competition, Stacy Austin won a first place in the Illustrated Talk competition. Her topic was Parents Too Soon, the Problems of Teenage Pregnancy. Stacy will participate at the state level in June, where Reidland will host the opening day activities. Members of the DECA organization recently attended the state DECA convention, where Teresa Ramage won first place in advertising tests and layout. Jennifer Lindsay placed third in state in a new national event, Entrepreneurship Written Project. Jennifer is now eligible to compete at the national convention in Salt Lake City during the weekend of April 27, 1988. Reidland's academic team had an excellent season in 87 and 88. Highlights of the season included advancing to the second round of the Executive Inn Invitational and competing in the Governor's Cup. The varsity included John Witt, Stacey Howard, Russ McHouston, Tony Davis, Patrick Connor, Mike Cooper, and John Garrett. The two coaches, David Arat and Larry Wallace, provided the necessary inspiration to help round out a winning season. The Reidland Guard does well each year in marching season. The Guard is made up of over 100 dedicated music lovers who spend hours before, during, and after school perfecting a marching program for the enjoyment of RHS supporters. The Guard won 1 first place and 4 second places in competition during the 1987 marching season. Reidland's vocal music department is another outstanding facet of our school. Each year, our choir members participate in choral groups at Murray State and Moorhead. It is another tradition at Reidland to have several or all state choir members participate. The vocal music department will present a spring concert on May 6, 1988 at the PCC Auditorium. Basketball teams at Reidland continue the spirit of winning and being positive. Our boys varsity squad has a record of 14-12 during the 1987 and 88 season. For the last 2 or 3 years, Reidland has been to the regional tournament. Our girls basketball team has been equally successful. One of the highlights of the 1987-88 year was the breaking of the school scoring record by Michelle Martin. Michelle scored over 1,300 points during her 5-year career at Reidland. Our football team this year had an outstanding season with a 7-3 record. Winning our first McCracken County championship was an exciting event. Student, parent, and community support were much appreciated by the Greyhounds. Cheerleading squads from Reidland are involved not only in supporting all sports, but they are also involved in their own competition. Reidland squads have been members of KPOS since the beginning of the organization. In state-level competition during the past 5 years, our varsity cheerleaders have ranked 3rd, 5th, and 7th in state competition. Our JV cheerleaders have also won 5th in state competition, as well as just having finished state competition. This is a sampling of the many opportunities available to RHS students. The faculty, staff, administration, and student body are very proud of our school, our activities, and our excellent academic program.
Go in. Hi. My first question is from Robbie, who's a 7th grader at Reidland Middle, and it's a math question, and I'll have to take it to the board. Robbie wants to know how to calculate the percent of decrease in a price. Well, the formula for this is the percent decrease is equal to the original cost minus the decrease divided by the original cost times 100. Now, we'll test it by making the original cost equal to $12, and we'll make the decreased cost equal to $8. So the percent decrease would be equal to $12 minus $8 divided by $12 times 100. So you solve for this and you get 4 over 12 times 100. This is equal to 0.33 times 100. So the percent decrease is equal to 33%. Hope that answers your question, Robbie.
My first question is from Robbie at Reidland Middle School. He's a 7th grader, and it's a percentage question. I'll go to the board to work it. His question is, what percentage of 60 is 25? Okay, to start this problem, you can, by the wording of the problem, you can write the fraction 25 over 60, and you're looking for the percentage of this. And you can write percentage as a fraction of 100 and this is the percentage you're looking for. If you cross multiply this, 25 times 100 is 2500, and 60 times x, and you solve for x, you get 2500 over x over 60. And if this is calculated, you can find that it's 41.7%, which would be 0.417 over 100, and this is your answer.
My question's from Stephanie from Farley. It's a math question. I have to take it to the board. So I made up a sample problem. I'm going to add 1/4 plus 1 over 10. The best way to do this is to find a common denominator. The quickest way is to prime factorize both of these. 4 is equal to 2 times 2, and 10 is going to be equal to 2 times 5. You take each set, whenever you prime factorize, the most numbers of each one you have. Like if we'd had a 3 over here, you take a 3. You take the one with the most 2's and the one with the most 5's, and then you multiply them together. 2 times 2 times 5 gives you 20. So your common denominator is 20. So you're going to change 1/4 into 1 over 20 what over 20? 1/4 equals x over 20, which is going to be 20 equals 4x, so x equals 5. So 1 over 4 is equal to 5 over 20. Then you got to change 1 over 10 to 1 over 20, or to whatever over 20. So it's 1 over 10 equals x over 20. So 20 equals 10x, x equals 2. So it's 5 over 20 plus 2 over 20, which is going to give you 7 over 20. Hope that answers your question, Stephanie. Our next question is from Melissa, a 3rd grader at Lone Oak, and it too is math. Okay. Melissa wants to know how to do a simple division problem. Alright. The problem she asked for is 4 divided into 89. Alright, the first step, you check this number and see if this number will go into this one. And if this number is too small to be divided by this number, then you go to the next one. But in this case, this number will go into this. Now, what you're looking for is the smallest number that you can multiply this one with to get closest to this, but you can't go over. It has to be equal or less than this. So in here we have the number 2. So 4 times 2 would be 8. Subtract, you get 0. Bring down your next number, which would be 9. Do the same thing here. 4 dividing into 9. 2 again. 2 times 4 would be 8. And then you go ahead and subtract, and you get 1. Next, you don't have any more numbers to bring down, so you have to add a 0. Make sure you put your decimal point here, and go ahead and put it up here to make sure you don't lose track. This will prevent much of your error in division problems. So you bring down your 0. 4 going into 10 2 times. 2 times 4 would be 8. Subtract, you get 2. There's still no numbers to bring down, so you add another 0, bring it down, divide 4 into 20. It goes 5 times. 5 times 4 is 20. When you subtract, you get 0, and you've now completed your division problem. And I hope that's helped you out, Melissa.
My next question is from Heather. She's a 4th grader at Concord Elementary, and it's in math, and I'll have to take this one to the board. Heather wants to know how to multiply fractions, so I'm going to tell her. We'll take 1/2 and multiply it times 1/4. Well, to multiply fractions, you would multiply the two numerators together. In this case, 1 times 1. So 1 times 1 is 1. Next, you would multiply the denominators together. This would be 2 times 4, which would be equal to 8. So the answer would be 1/8. I hope that answers your question, Heather.
My next question is from Randy from PMS. He's having some problem with his algebra, so I'll go to the board and try to help him with it. Has x squared minus y squared. This is a difference in two squares in algebra, and he wants to know how to factor this. Okay, to factor the difference in two squares, x squared and y squared, the only way to do this is to factor it in this way. Into two binomials, you have x plus y and x minus y, and this is how it's factored. To check it, how you'd probably be taught is x times x is x squared, and y times x is yx, and negative yx is yx, and they cancel out, and negative y and y is negative y squared, and that's what you started with. So this is how you factor it.
I have a math question from Susan at St. Mary Elementary. She's in 6th grade. I'll take it to the board. She wants to know how to put a number in scientific notation. Her number was 0.00094226. Okay? The first thing you want to do is you have to know that your number is going to be between 1 and 10. So you're going to bring your decimal place over until you get a number that's greater than 1 but less than 10. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Put your decimal place right here. That gives you 9.426. Okay, now you moved it 4 decimal places, so you put a 4 right here. Now, if your number that you started with is less than 0, this is going to be a negative to tell you that you move your decimal place back this way when you take it out of scientific notation. If this had been a number greater than 1, then you would have had to have moved the decimal place positive amount when you get done to go this way. I hope that helps you out, Susan. Next we have a science question from Jason, a Reidland 4th grader. He wants to know the 3 forms of water that exist. Well, the easiest way to remember water as we think of it in everyday situations is liquid, like in our rivers, and it comes out of the drinking fountain. So liquid would be the first form. Second form, you think of your refrigerator of the ice cubes, they're frozen, they're solid. So the second form would be solid. So we have liquid and solid. The third form most people will find hard to remember, but it's not really that hard. Think of when you're boiling tea, steam is removed. The steam is the water coming off. So the three forms that water exists in is liquid, solid, and gaseous.
My next question is from Melissa. She's a first grader at Lone Oak Elementary, and she has an English question. She wants me to show her how to spell communities. I'll take this one to the board. Well, Melissa, communities is spelled C-O-M-M-U-N-I-T-I-E-S. This is how you spell communities correctly. I hope that answers your question, Melissa.
My next question is from Stephanie at Paducah High School, and is a 9th grader, and she wants to know how to solve for a variable in a simple equation. And I'll go to the board for this. Okay, the equation she has down is z plus 28 equals 5. In this equation, z is the variable, and trying to solve for it, so you want to get it on one side by itself. So to do this, you can subtract 28 from both sides, and you get z by itself, and you get a negative 23 on this side. And this is the value for z, and this is the answer. I hope this helps.
My next question is a math question from Latricia. She's a 7th grader at Paducah Middle School. I'm going to have to go to the board. She wants to know what the perimeter of a triangle is if its sides are 7 3/4, 5 1/6, and 8 2/3. So you can draw out your triangle, but you don't have to. It's 7 3/4, 5 1/6, and then 8 2/3. Okay, perimeter, you need to know that perimeter is the sum of the length around an object. So you're going to add each one of the distances to find your perimeter. So you're going to add 7 3/4 plus 8 2/3 plus 5 1/16, or 1/6. You need to make these into complex fractions so that they're easier to work with. This becomes, well, I'll tell you what, best thing to do would be to get rid of your whole numbers just by simply adding them out. 7 plus 8 plus 5 is going to be 20, plus 3/4 plus 2/3 plus 1/6. Again, you need to find a common denominator. So you break it down into 2 times 2, 1 times 3, and 2 times 3. This one contains the most 2's, so you can mark out that one. This one and this one have the same amount of 3's, so you mark out one of them. So to find your common denominator of all 3 of these, you get 4 times 3, which is 12. That's how you use prime factorization to find your common denominator. So it's 20 plus 3/4. 4 will go into 12 3 times. So you multiply 3 times your numerator, and you get 9/12. Okay, then you take this one and change it into 12. 3 will go into 12 4 times. So 4 times 2 is 8/12. Plus 1/6. 6 will go into 12 2 times, so it's 2 times 1 is 2/12. So you add these up, and you get 20 plus 7, 9 and 8 is 17 plus 2 is 19/12. Since 19 is bigger than 12, you need to reduce this down. 12 will go into 19 one time, so that makes this 21 plus 7/12, which is 21 7/12. Hope this answers your question, Latricia. Tabitha has a question from Concord. It's a fourth grade social studies question. What she wants to know is, who is the 16th president of the United States? Well, this is a good question because a lot of people believe that this could be one of the greatest presidents the United States has ever had. The answer, Tabitha, is Abraham Lincoln.
My next question is for Talonda, who's a 6th grader at Paducah Middle. She has an English question. She wants to know, what is the name of a poem which has personification, simile, and a metaphor? Well, Talonda, Calling One's Own, which is an Indian poem that is anonymous, it is a fine example of a poem that uses personification, similes, and metaphors. I hope this answers your question.
Holly from Morgan Elementary has a math problem. She wants to subtract unlike fractions with different denominators, and I'll go to the board to do this. Her problem has 3/4 minus 8/16. Okay, to solve this, we cannot subtract fractions with different denominators, so you must get them with the same denominator. Easiest way to do this is to find a number that can divide in both of them, and we'll get the same denominator. In this problem, it's easy, pretty easy, because 4 can go into both denominators, and this can be reduced to 2/4. Okay, using the 3/4 and subtracting the numerators, the answer is 1/4.
My next question is from Tommy at Lone Oak. He wants to divide a number. I'll have to go to the board. He wants to divide 20 into 68. First thing you do is, since this is more than one place, then you have to see into both numbers how many times it will go. So 20 will go into 68 3 times. 3 times 20 is 60. So you subtract, and it's 8. You have to add zeros onto this to be able to complete your bring down the 0. 2 will go into 80 4 times. 4 times 20 is 80. You have 0 remainder, so the answer to this question, Tommy, is 3.4.
Next question comes from a 6th grader at Reidland, Sarah. She wants to know how an empire of ancient times is different from the many types of government we have today. Well, in ancient times, much of the territory was unexplored, and the type of governments we had were expansionistic governments. What this means is they were had leaders who wanted power. They wanted to gain this power by taking over lands and hopefully riches from these other lands. Also, countries that existed at that time could also provide wealth if they were taken over by a dictator or a leader of an empire that was expanding rapidly. Today, most of the area, practically all the area of the world, has been explored and is under jurisdiction of some country or another. So the type of expansion they had in ancient times is not available for today. It's obvious today we have countries that are much more advanced technology, and they can communicate with each other, and they're much friendlier basis with alliances. The governments of ancient times, the empires, basically were ruled by one person or one family, the kings and queens, and the emperors, of course, of Rome. Today, the capitalist government especially allows representation from all people. So all people has a voice in government, and they can decide how their country would set certain regulations. I would say the main difference between modern day nations and the ancient empire is that today everyone can decide how their country will be ran. Thanks a lot, Sarah, for calling in. We appreciate the calls.
My next question is from Susie, who is a 6th grader at St. Mary Elementary School. It's a history question. She wants to know how many presidents have been assassinated while they were in office and who were they? This is a very good question, Susie. It's very important to know the history and tradition of our U.S. presidents. There were 4 presidents to be assassinated, Susie. The first one was in 1865 when Abraham Lincoln was shot by John Wilkes Booth. In 1881, James Garfield was assassinated. In 1901, William McKinley was assassinated. And more recently, in 1963, John F. Kennedy was assassinated. Hope this answers your question, Susie.
I have a question from somebody without a name here. It's asked, what is a haiku and where did it originate? Well, a haiku is a poem, and it's originally from Japan. It's a 4-line poem, and in the first line there are 5 syllables. In the second line there are 7 syllables. In the third line there are 5 syllables, and in the fourth line there are 7 syllables. And it usually deals with nature and things with real life. I hope that helps.
My next question is from Samuel, and he's from Reidland Elementary in 2nd grade. I have to take this one to the board. Samuel wants to know what is 27% of 82. The best way to do this, Samuel, is with a calculator. So it's 27. You change 27% into 27 over 100 and multiply that times 82. You multiply it out with the calculator and you get 22.14. Hope that helps you out, Samuel.
Now we have a question from Morgan Elementary from Anthony, who's a 5th grader. The area is social studies. Anthony wants to know who is the 27th president of the United States. Well, William Taft was the president. He later went on to become Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. Thanks a lot for calling, Anthony, and I hope I helped you out.
My next question is from John, who's a 9th grader at Reidland High School. He wants to know who is the father of the modern detective novel. Well, John, Edgar Allan Poe has the prestigious honor for this. Some of his famous works include The Raven, The Gold Bug, The Purloined Letter, and The Fall of the House of Usher. I hope this answers your question, John. Thanks for calling.
Caller from Heath is 9th grader Joe. He has a problem with algebra factoring a polynomial. I'll go to the board to work this. Joe wants to factor x cubed plus 27. Okay, to factor this, you need to, the best way is to factor the numbers involved here. And here it's 1 times 1. And here you have to find the group of numbers to factor the polynomial and the numbers that can work. So you could try some different factors and see which ones work. And the first part of the factorization is going to be a binomial, and the second part is going to be a trinomial. So you're going to have a polynomial, a trinomial. And the way this one factors, you're going to have x here, and because this is positive here, plus, you're going to have plus here, and this is going to be x squared to get x cubed, and here you're going to have an x, and you have to fill in the numbers that will get 27. And in this particular problem, the 3's here, you're going to have a negative here, and 9. This is how it's factored.
My next question is a math question, and it's from Stephanie. She goes to Heath. She wants to know how to solve for x in this equation. 6x minus 3 equals 39. First thing you need to do is get x on one side. So you want to move that 3 over here. To get rid of 3 on this side, you have to add 3. So you have to do the same thing to both sides, Stephanie. So you have to add 3 to this side. 3 plus 3 equals 0. So these cancel out. This leaves you with 6x equals 42. Then you need to get rid of the 6 on this side. And since this is 6 times x, you divide by 6 over here. And always when you're doing a math problem, you have to keep it equal on both sides. So if you divide by 6 on this side, you have to divide by 6 on this side. 6 divided by 6 is 1, and 42 divided by 6 is 7. So you're left with the answer of x equals 7. I hope that helped you out, Stephanie.
Okay, Steve has our next question. He's a 12th grader at St. Mary's, and it's literature. He says, what is the rhyme scheme of the Rime of the Ancient Mariner? Well, in any poem, the rhyme scheme is found by looking at the last words of each line of the stanza. I'll go to the board to illustrate this. Okay. Here are the last words of each of the first 4 lines of the poem. Okay, now you look at the word. You start this one out, it's always A. Let it stand for the first letter in your rhyme scheme. The second word is 3. You see if this word rhymes with the first word, which is mariner. Well, 3 does not rhyme with mariner, so it will be B is the second letter of your alphabet. So then you go to the next one, I. I does not rhyme with mariner, so it's not A. Next is B. I does not rhyme with 3, so C will be next one. Your last word is me. Me does not rhyme with mariner, but it does rhyme with 3, so you stop there. B, because it has to match up. You continue doing that with every stanza until you get to the end of the poem. I hope I've helped you out, Steve. Thanks a lot for calling.
My next question is from Kelly, who's an 11th grader at St. Mary High School. It's in history. She wants to know which one of Woodrow Wilson's 14 points is considered to be the most important, and what is it? Well, Kelly, the most important point that Woodrow Wilson proposed in his 14 points was the last point, the 14th point. It involved the formation of the League of Nations. This is very important because it is the basis for the formation of the United Nations. Hope this answers your question, Kelly.
My next question is from Barton at St. Mary's, and he's a 6th grader. And his question is, what is the most western province in Canada? Canada is made up of provinces instead of states, so there is provinces instead of states in Canada. And the most westernmost is British Columbia.
My next question is a history question. It's from Melissa at Lone Oak Elementary. She wants to know who the 6th President of the United States was. Well, Melissa, that was John Quincy Adams.
Next we have Sandy from Lone Oak Elementary. She's got a question about the movies. She wants to know what the name of the monkey that was in the movie that starred Ronald Reagan. Well, I'm sure Ronald Reagan was in several movies. The one I think she's talking about, the monkey would be named Bonzo. Yes, Sandy, that's Bonzo. Thanks a lot for calling.
My next question is from Josh, who's a 9th grader at Heath. It's a math question, and I'll have to take it to the board. Josh has the problem x plus 25 equals 100, and he is wanting to solve for x. So in order to do this, we would subtract 25 from each side to solve for x. So in this case, we'll subtract 25 from this side and subtract 25 from this side. So x would be equal to 100 minus 25, which is equal to 75. The answer is 75. I hope that answers your question, Josh.
Michael from Reidland has called in. He's an 8th grader, and he has a math question dealing with simple interest. I'll go to the board and try to explain simple interest. Okay, finding simple interest, you have an amount, like say money, you have an amount of something, and you want to find the interest over a period of time. Okay, to do this you need a rate of interest. This is important. The rate is how much this will grow or enlarge over a period of time. And if we use for I for interest, okay, set this I equals the amount you have now times the rate. Okay, in a problem you might have interest equal to, say, you had $1,000 and the rate was 1%, 0.01. And if you solve this, your interest would be, okay, you could multiply this out and you could do it the long way and you multiply it out and you get 0, 0, 1. Move your decimal place and your interest is 10. This is how much more your amount is. Your total amount would be $1,010. That would be the total. Hope that helps.
My next question is from Jennifer. She goes to Hendron Lone Oak. It's a math question. You're on camera. Jennifer wanted me to divide 316 into 4,130. Well, Jennifer, I'm sure if you wanted to, you could do this longhand, but the best thing to do is go to a calculator because your answer is 13.06962.025, and it keeps on going. So you never end, you'll never get done. So what I'm going to tell you to do is use a calculator. Thanks a lot, Jennifer.
Now I have a call from Rebecca from Farley. She's a 5th grader. She wants to know who John F. Kennedy's father was. Well, his father was Joe Kennedy. Appreciate your calls, and we don't have a whole lot of time left, so you better hurry up. You're going to have to do your homework by yourself. Thanks a lot.
My next question is from Nancy. She's a second grader at Reidland Elementary. She's got a social study question for me. She wants to know, how many presidents have there been? Well, Nancy, there have been 40 presidents. The first one was George Washington, and the 40th one was Ronald Reagan. Hope that answers your question, Nancy, and please call in.
I have a question from Reidland Elementary from Jenny. She's a fourth grader, and she wants to know how baseball averages are computed. Okay, this is a simple process. The number of hits a player has in all the total games that he's played in is divided by all of his at-bats. And this is done with a calculator or such, and you get a batting average from this. I hope this explains it.
My question is from Laurel at St. Mary's. This is a chemistry question. He wanted me to balance the chemical equation carbon plus oxygen equals CO2. Well, Laurel, you write this down on a piece of paper. It's C plus O2. Oxygen is a diatomic molecule, equals CO2. This equation is already balanced. Thank you.
Now we have a question from Charity, an eighth grader at Reidland Middle School. Charity wants to know, what two goals did Europe have in going to Asia? Well, the two goals that Europe had when they went to Asia, they tried, number one, to open new trade routes. All the countries in Europe were trying to get the spices and the cloths, the different type of products that India and the other eastern area of Asia had that Europe did not. So the main reason that Europe went to Asia was to open new trade routes so they could get these products quickly and easier than they had been getting them before. Also, they wanted to set up new colonies, because if they could set up the colonies over there which could produce the fabrics and the spices by themselves, then they wouldn't need to buy them from the other countries such as India. Hope this helps you out, Charity, and please keep on calling in.
My next question is from John, who is an 8th grader at Paducah Middle School. He wants to know, how many battles did it take the Allied armies to take Monte Cassino? Well, John, it took 4 battles. Thanks for calling, John.
Erica from Lone Oak has called in, and she has a question. She wants to know what president appears on a $50 bill of U.S. currency. Well, the answer to this is a general and president famous in United States history. His name is U.S. Grant. Ulysses S. Grant.
My next question is from Steve. He's a senior. It's a chemistry equation. This is a good question, Steve. I'm sure you don't have a chemistry and physics handbook at home to look this up. He wanted to know what the index of refraction for carbon bisulfide is. Well, I must confess that I didn't know this off the top of my head. We looked it up in a chemistry and physics handbook. The index refraction for carbon bisulfide is 1.628. Thanks for calling in, Steve.
Now we have a question from Liz, a 6th grader at Paducah Middle. I have to go to the board for this math question. Liz would like to know, okay, if 40% of $6,000 went to paying taxes, how much did not go to taxes? Or how much was your take-home pay? Okay, you had $6,000. Now 40% of that went to paying taxes. So 40% this was going to taxes. You have to multiply it. Change your 40%, which is equal to 40 parts out of 100. So 40 over 100 is the same thing. It's easier to write it in decimal when you multiply. Now 6,000 times 40%, you multiply it out, you put down this 0 here. Now, then you proceed to multiply. 4 times 0 is 0, 4 times 0, 0, and again. Now 4 times 6, you have 24. And you have 2 decimal places, which you need to move, because you've got your decimal here, you need to move it over this way. 2 decimal places. So you have $2,400 out of $6,000 went towards paying taxes. So simply subtract your $6,000, subtract your $2,400 from that. Subtract. Have to have 6 becomes a 5. You bring a 1, make 10 over here. 10. Subtract a 4 from that. You get 6. 5 minus 2 is 3. $3,600 out of $6,000 did not go towards taxes. Thanks a lot, Liz.
My next question is from Todd, who's an 8th grader at Paducah Middle School. He would like to know who the 21st President of the United States was. Well, Todd, this is another good question. The 21st President was Chester A. Arthur. He succeeded James Garfield after he was assassinated in 1881. Hope that answers your question, Todd.
Misty, a 6th grader at Reidland Middle School. She has a question in math, and I'll go to the board to explain it. She asked, how do you find circumference of a circle if the diameter is 2 meters? Okay. The diameter of a circle goes to the center and goes from side to side. This is the diameter. And she wants to find the circumference, which is all the way around the circle. Okay, the formula for circumference, one formula for circumference is pi times the diameter of the circle is circumference. And you have the diameter equal to 2 meters. Okay, pi is equal to approximately 3.14, and diameter is 2, and the answer is 2 pi, or if you work this out, it would be approximately 6.3, and that would be meters. That's the answer to your problem. Thank you.
My question is from Sharon. It's a math question. Sharon kind of left this one open for me. She just said, how do you do decimals? So I'm going to explain them all. When you're going to add decimals, like if you got a number here and so many numbers after it, and you wanted to add something to it, what you need to do to be able to make sure that you have your decimals placed in the right spot when you get done adding is to line up your other decimals in your second number. So like it's 1.4. So your final answer, you just add it like it's a regular problem, 0, 2, 5, 1. Bring your decimal point straight down. If you're going to subtract, you do the same exact thing. Multiplication, on the other hand, is different. Like you have a number like 0.6 times 0.4. When you multiply it out, you disregard the decimal places at the very beginning. So 4 times 6 is 24. When you get done, you count up how many places there are after every one of the decimals. So you've got 1 here and 1 here. So when you get done multiplying, you start from the very far right hand of your number and count back that many spots. 1, 2. So your decimal place goes right there. In dividing, say you're dividing 0.12 into 24. The thing that I usually do is to make the number that I'm dividing into the other number, I make it a whole number by moving my decimal place to the right until I get to the very end. So I move it 2 spots. Also, once you move this one 2 spots, you have to move this decimal in here 2 spots. To do that, you have to add some zeros. 1, 2. So that's the same thing as 12 into 2400. So you divide it out and you get 200. Hope that answers your question, Sharon.
Lacey has a question. She's a 6th grader at Lone Oak. Have to go to the board for this math. Okay, this is a greater than, less than subtraction problem. This is the problem. You're trying to solve for A here. To solve for A, you have to get A on one side of the less than sign. You have to have it by itself. So, in order to get rid of the 1 and the 2, simply add a 1 and a 2, since these are negative, to each side. So, A minus 1 minus 2 plus 1 plus 2, because when you add these together, you'll get 0, so you'll get A by itself on that side. Since you did it to the left side of the equation, you also have to do it to the right side. So you have 10 plus 1 plus 2. A negative 1 plus 1 is 0, and a negative 2 plus 2 is also 0. So you successfully got A on its side by itself. It's going to be less than 10 plus 1 is 11 plus 2 is 13. So A has to be less than 13. Thank you, Lacey, and I hope it's helped you out.
My question is from Ron, who's a 10th grader at Paducah Middle School. He wants to know, when multiplying negative and positive numbers, what would the answer be, negative or positive? Well, this answer requires, it's a multiple answer question. If you're multiplying a negative number times a negative number, the answer would be positive. If you multiply a positive number by a positive number, the answer would be positive. And if you're multiplying a positive number by a negative number, the answer would be negative. I hope this answers your question, Ron.
Okay, we still have questions from people, but we have run out of time tonight. And we'd really appreciate if you could tune in next week for St. Mary's, or if you could ask a teacher or other tomorrow night, or tomorrow in the morning, or anytime. And we appreciate you watching us tonight.